All right, let's jump straight into today's explainer because we are unpacking a really fascinating, honestly, kind of counterintuitive reality. And that is the fact that being poor is actually far more expensive than being rich. It sounds like a total paradox, right? But the mechanics of poverty create this hidden financial trap that most people literally never even see. So let's dive into exactly how this works. I want you to picture two people for a second. Both of them are equally intelligent. They both work incredibly hard and they have the exact same drive to build a successful life. But there's one massive fundamental difference. Person A is born into a family with some savings and financial security. Person B, on the other hand, starts out without any financial cushion whatsoever and is immediately struggling just to keep the lights on. Fast forward 20 years, person A has built up assets, while person B is still just trying to stay afloat. Now, is that because person A worked harder? Well, not necessarily. It actually comes down to a lifelong structural contrast that we're going to break down today. Now, to really grasp this, we have to fundamentally reframe our baseline assumption about wealth. Most people think poverty just means having less money in the bank, but that's only half the story. Poverty is, at its core, a severe lack of options. And from an economic standpoint, when you have a lack of options, you are almost always forced into highly inefficient, incredibly expensive decisions. Okay, let's look at a real-world example. Say your car breaks down. For someone with wealth, the immediate cost is $500. They just pay it out of their savings, the issue is completely resolved, and life goes on, right? But what if you don't have $500 just sitting around? Well, you're forced to borrow it. Maybe you put it on a high-interest credit card, or worse, you have to take out a predatory payday loan. Suddenly, that $500 annoyance compounds into a $700 problem, then a $900 problem, and before you know it, you are dealing with a $1,200 full-blown crisis. The core issue wasn't the broken car. The issue was the lack of liquidity. Folks don't pay more because they're irresponsible. They pay more because they literally do not have an alternative. And this dynamic builds into an everyday reality perfectly captured by a really famous concept called the Boots theory. Basically, it's the socioeconomic idea that people in poverty are forced to buy cheap goods that just wear out super quickly. Because of this, they ultimately spend way more money over time than wealthier individuals do. It's a brilliant illustration of how poverty actively forces you into purchases that just drain your wealth over the long haul. Because, cheap products break faster, they need more repairs, and you're just constantly replacing them. Let's actually do the math on this, because the numbers tell such a compelling story. Imagine two pairs of work boots. One costs $20, the other is $100. The poor person only has $20, so that's what they buy. But those boots wear out every single year. So over 5 years, they've bought 5 pairs, dropping a total of $100. Meanwhile, the wealthier person buys the $100 boots once, and they last for 10 solid years. The irony here is absolutely staggering. So think about it. What is the true cost of a $1,000 emergency? Well, if you have the savings, it's $1,000. But if you have to borrow it, after interest, that cost can easily balloon to $1,400. I really want you to let the weight of that $400 interest penalty sink in. That is a 40% premium you're paying essentially just for the crime of not having capital upfront. Every single emergency becomes exponentially more expensive. And from a strategic business perspective, there are entire financial sectors built on extracting this exact premium from people without a safety net. Which brings us to the trap. It's a vicious structural cycle. Step 1, an emergency strikes. Step 2, without savings, you have to borrow the cash. Step 3, those high interest payments start accumulating. Step 4, paying that interest actively drains your income, leaving you with even less ability to save for the future. Which leads right into step 5. The cycle repeats itself. A lot of people fail to realize that poverty itself generates continuous financial penalties. It's a self-sustaining loop designed to keep you stuck. But hey, the tax of being poor isn't just financial. It is heavily temporal. Think about the daily commute. A wealthy person hops in their car and drives 15 minutes to the office. A poor person, lacking a reliable vehicle, spends 90 minutes riding 2 or 3 different buses. That happens every day, every week, every year. Hundreds of hours simply vanish. We all know the old business adage that time is money. Well, the reality is, poverty steals both. Let's break this time tax down a bit more. It means waiting in longer lines. It means spending hours filing complex government bureaucracy just to access basic assistance. It's relying on incredibly slow public transit, spending your limited free time hunting for grocery discounts, and losing your entire weekend to a second or third job. This hidden cost is measured in life's most precious, non-renewable resource, your time. From a macroeconomic level, think about the massive loss of overall human productivity here.
Once that time is gone, you never get it back. Now we arrive at what might be the heaviest burden of all: the stress tax. Constant money worries drastically reduce a person's mental bandwidth. Financial stress literally alters how your brain functions. When basic survival becomes your absolute, unrelenting priority, your brain simply does not have the capacity left over to process much else. And this creates a massive cognitive divide. A brain stuck in survival mode is hyper-focused on immediate, urgent threats, making rent, buying food, dodging the debt collector who's calling right now. Getting to tomorrow is infinitely more important than planning for 5 years down the road. Compare that to a brain that has a financial cushion. That brain is relaxed enough to focus on long-term investing, skill building, and strategic planning. As industry leaders or observers, we have to realize that making poor financial decisions under extreme stress isn't a character flaw. It is basic human biology. The relentless pressure of poverty makes good decisions harder, not easier. So, I have a question for you. Who has the advantage here? Imagine two students. One can afford extra courses, private tutors, and top-tier tech. The other can't. Or picture two professionals. One has the financial safety net to take career risks, learn new strategic skills, or even launch a startup. The other is living paycheck to paycheck, knowing that one single mistake could literally mean eviction. The answer is obvious, but it forces us to acknowledge a very uncomfortable reality about how advantage actually compounds over time.
And that brings us to the ultimate hidden cost of poverty, the opportunity gap. Having capital creates opportunities. Lacking capital removes them. Think about all the businesses that were never started, the investments never made, the higher education never pursued, the dreams that get delayed for decades. Think about the massive strategic loss for our industries. How many brilliant innovators and visionary leaders are completely sidelined from the global market simply because they were trapped paying $1,400 for a $1,000 emergency? So the big question, how do people actually escape this? Look, breaking the cycle isn't about some flashy overnight success or falling for a get-rich-quick scheme. It is entirely about building small, incremental advantages. The vast majority of wealth is built through thousands of tiny, steady decisions compounded over years. Let's look at the concrete roadmap for building those advantages. Step 1, create an emergency fund. Now, based on everything we've just covered, we know this is incredibly hard when you're starting from zero, but it is the ultimate essential shield against that predatory interest penalty. Step 2, learn valuable skills. Step 3, ruthlessly, and I mean ruthlessly, avoid high-interest debt. Step 4, invest consistently. Your goal here isn't becoming a millionaire by tomorrow. The goal is creating just enough financial breathing room so that your next emergency is just a minor bump in the road rather than a full-blown life disaster. Because ultimately, wealth isn't just having a pile of money, it's having choices. Understanding the hidden costs of poverty, the insane interest premiums, the mental stress, the stolen time, the missed strategic opportunities, it completely changes how we view what wealth actually is. It's the ability to handle a crisis without panic. It's the freedom to think strategically about your long-term future. So the next time someone tells you that poverty is simply a lack of effort, remember the math and the massive opportunity gap we walked through today. Being poor is quite literally the most expensive way to live. So now that you know the hidden mechanics of this trap, what is one small choice you can make today to start building your own financial breathing room? Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.